If this is your first or second time here, hope you enjoyed the video. If this is your third time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on when I post. In my last video, going over the United States flag of Fallout and how it changed. Half of that video was just a history lesson on the US flag. I hinted at maybe I'd do a couple of videos covering different historical topics in the Fallout world. I figure this one here is going to be the history of the Brotherhood of Steel. Because I've talked about it in a few videos and whatnot, about how their unique organization is, well, was once upon a time part of the United States government. So we'll go into it in a little more depth. I'm not going to go into every minute detail of the entirety of the history of the Brotherhood, because that video would be like 2 hours long, and I just don't have time for that. Probably also do another video on maybe some of the other factions' histories, and I don't know, maybe the history of how the timelines diverged from one another in the different places. But for this video, we're just going to focus on the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood of Steel is one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, group from the Fallout universe. At this point in time, they are the poster boys for Fallout. Their armor, or the armor styles that they use, have been used as the cover art for many Fallout games. They're pretty much in every intro. They usually always have a huge to-do in the main stories of the game. Vast majority of the time, they're the good guys for everybody, and if memory serves me correctly at this point, they're Todd Howard's favorite faction in all of Fallout, which doesn't surprise me. I love the Brotherhood of Steel too. Where did they come from? How were they founded? Why are they still around? And why the hell do they act the way they do? Well, we'll get into it here. First thing we have to do is pin down exactly what their goal is. The goal of the Brotherhood of Steel has always been to safeguard humanity from technology. And I know in a retro-futuristic world where laser guns and plasma weapons and wars fought on the moon, you know, technology can mean a lot of things. Like, technically everything made by human hands is some type of technology. Pretty much what they're after is anything that could destroy large swaths of people easily. And yes, this does sometimes break down into sets of armor and just basic handheld weaponry. This drive to safeguard humanity from themselves, from technology, stems from the founding of the Brotherhood of Steel. So we're gonna jump back to the mid-2070s, maybe even a little before 2070. The Pan-Immunity Viron project was started by the United States government. This was in response to the New Plague. The New Plague, deadly plague that ravaged America and much of the world, if memory serves me correctly. Extremely deadly, killed a bunch of people, so the government wanted to make a way to stop that from happening again. So they started the Pan-Immunity Viron project. This was used to try to make US citizens and soldiers immune to literally every disease, and radiation, and make them heal faster, and maybe make super soldiers later on. So they tested it. It had wild side effects and constantly mutated the host's DNA. So the government pulled the plug on it being used as a type of, that's the word I'm looking for, inoculation, and decided it would be better used by making super soldiers. So they changed the name of the project from the Pan-Immunity Viron Project to the Forced Evolutionary Virus Project, moved all the information thereof to Mariposa, and assigned a special unit of United States soldiers to oversee the base. Now, the soldiers didn't know what was going on in the base proper because that wasn't their job, right? And so the United States began testing FEV. First, they started with criminals, and then they moved on to prisoners of war. Now, mind you, some prisoners of war were U.S. citizens. Just like in World War II, when the United States of America could... Well, I should probably explain this a little better. In World War II, the United States of America felt as though Japanese Americans might have more loyalty to Japan than they did to the United States. So they pretty much made internment camps. Well, not pretty much. They did make internment camps for Japanese American citizens during World War II. It's messed up and whatnot, and some people will ask, well, why didn't they do that for Germans? Well, it's harder to tell a German American from a normal American than it is to tell a Japanese American from a normal American, air quotes on that. Especially, you know, World War II. normal. So, you know, retro-futuristic, they're pulling from World War II when they make these games. Same thing happened with Chinese Americans after the resource war with China. We had well, I say we, the Fallout world had internment camps for Chinese Americans. You come across quite a few of them in game. One of the most notable ones is in the Big Empty, or Big MT, Big Mountain, Little Yangtze, I think it's called, where there's still ghouls and stuff running around to this day that were Chinese American prisoners of war, so to speak. Well, these prisoners of war that were being taken to Mariposa were U.S. citizens, right? Some of them probably spies and whatnot, but others, you know, reported by their friends and their neighbors and whatnot for being different and maybe not going along with things the way they should have during that point in time, not supporting the government enough. You know, could have been one of 1,000 different things. Now we skip ahead to 2077, mid-October, if memory serves me correctly, 2077. Some information gets out within Mariposa, and a man by the name of Captain Roger Maxson gets hold of this information. He learns that the scientists thereof have been experimenting on U.S. citizens and experimenting on innocent people, using this forced evolutionary virus to mutate them in horrific ways. He takes exception to this, as many would. He gets pissed, and in front of everyone, he drags the head scientist out, and he executes them. He then tells his men to execute every other scientist. And so the United States military at Mariposa goes rogue, executes everyone that participated in this testing, and declares that they secede from the United States of America as of, I do believe, the 21st of October, 2077. If you know your Fallout history, you know that within a day or so after this happened, the bombs fell. One of the big things is being so isolated at where they were, they didn't really know what happened until a little while longer. Once word finally got to them that the world had ended and that no one was going to come to arrest them, court-martial them, try them for treason or anything like that, they decided, well, we shouldn't stay here anymore at Mariposa, so we should leave. Of course, Captain Roger Maxson knew of many different secret places of the government. I've always just called these types of facilities Raven Rock. I mostly call them that because of Fallout 3. But little known fact here in the United States, there are government bunker complexes throughout the entirety of the country. One of the most notable ones is in the Cheyenne Mountains. It's a huge facility able to hold quite a few people. And there are government bunkers in places where you wouldn't expect them to be. One of the funniest stories I have heard in modern history was there was a government complex for like Congress under I want to say golf course. And it, you know, it's huge, it's sealed off, it has pretty much a mini Congress deal in there with all the seating and everything. Everything was fine. It's just someone left the door open, I guess. A big like wall that shouldn't be able to move was just left open, and people found it, and yeah, that had to be declassified, and it can't be used by the government now, so I guess they use it for like tours and stuff. That's like millions of dollars gone down the drain because someone left a door open. Goes to make you wonder how many other facilities like this exist in these strangest of fucking places. So there's quite a few all over the country, pretty much anywhere where the president or vice president or any member of Congress would be. You could expect them to be less than 30 minutes helicopter flight to a facility like this, right? So I've always just called them Raven Rock. It's just a good blanket term for them, right? Because you got like air raid shelters, you got bomb shelters, you got fallout shelters, you got bunkers, and then you got like vaults. Not to be confused with vaults in Fallout lore. Vaults like in the Seed Vault. And then you have Raven Rock, which is a huge facility that people could live in for pretty much an unlimited amount of time, should they so choose, right? Little off topic there, but trust me, it comes back to it here because Roger Maxson decided to lead his military unit, everyone from Mariposa that wasn't a scientist, and all of his soldiers, so the families of the soldiers and whatnot. I'm guessing there was probably someplace on base for families to live, base housing or whatnot. Anyway, he led all of them to the Lost Hills Bunker, which was an abandoned military installation. And during this journey, Maxon's wife died. And that hardened his view on the world now, showing that pretty much people can't be trusted to a point, right? It's a whole thing. And it began his views on how his group should act from then on. So we skip ahead a few years to 2082. This was the founding year of the Brotherhood of Steel. Before that, they just considered themselves a remnant of the United States military. And this is why I always say the Brotherhood of Steel is the military of the United States, just given a different purpose post-war. Where the Enclave is the government of the United States, the Brotherhood of Steel is the military of the United States. All right? So with this year, Brotherhood's founded with its new doctrine to try to safeguard humanity from, well, itself, and the technology that brought about the creation of the forced evolutionary virus, and they want to stop anything like that from happening again. Well, that part right there is kind of bastardized by later chapters, because they don't really even know what the FEV is for the most part. It's still significant that they need to try to safeguard humanity from accidentally destroying themselves again, or trying to create something that could then destroy themselves, right? And from that, we step into the early years of the Brotherhood of Steel, from the 2080s to like 2130, let's say. They began salvaging pre-war tech, gaining power through discipline and weaponry, because find power armor, fix power armor, use power armor, find laser Gatling gun, fix it, use it. They started delving into ruins and whatnot to try to find dangerous weapons that they'd heard about to make sure no one else could get their hands on it. At this point in time, one Sergeant Dennis Allen became obsessed with West-Tech. West-Tech, if memory serves me correctly, is the original company that created the Pan Immunity Viron project that led to the FEV. He figured that there was still significant danger and technologies located in the West-Tech facilities. Maxon, having seen what happened with the FEV, didn't want his people fucking around with that stuff. You know, while safeguarding tech is their forte and what they live to do, he figured it would be like a Pandora's box, right? What if there was a less stable version of FEV? What if it was even more highly infective than what it is before, right? What if you accidentally unleash that into the world? It could kill everyone, so don't fuck with it. He didn't listen, and this is where the first break in the Brotherhood happened. Sergeant Allen took his troops and led a rogue expedition into West-Tech, where they all died, I'm guessing. No one knows what happened, because they never came back. Scouts were sent to check on them. Nothing, right? They didn't find a damn thing about them. So, that kind of solidifies and ends the first schism of the Brotherhood there. In mid-2130, so 2135, Roger Maxson died of cancer, because I'm guessing the vast majority of people that survived the initial blast of the bombs and lived for more than a decade probably developed cancer. He was succeeded by his son, Roger Maxson II. He carried on his father's strict views and ran the Brotherhood as it should be, but with him becoming the new leader of the Brotherhood of Steel, it started a long line that goes all the way up until Fallout 4, and most likely after, that the descendants of Roger Maxson are technically the kings and queens of the Brotherhood of Steel, right? There's a unique rank within the Brotherhood of Steel that not many know about, right? You have your, depending on which chapter you're talking about, you have your initiates, you have your, and then from the next step up from that, usually an initiate of the scribes or the knights, and then knights, and then senior knights and scribes, and then proctors for the knights and scribes, and then the head knight, head scribe, and then you have, usually coming from the knight branch, the paladins, initiate paladin, normal paladin, proctor for the paladins, senior paladin, head paladin. Each of the heads of these divisions usually hold elder council with the elder of that chapter of the Brotherhood, but every chapter of the Brotherhood has an elder. And every chapter of the Brotherhood's elder is technically part of the Elder Council for the High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, the High Elder can be usually anyone from the Brotherhood of Steel, as long as they're chosen. The vast majority of High Elders have been descended from Roger Maxson. If memory serves me correctly, when Arthur Maxson of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 became the Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel, the High Elder, At the age of 16, he became the leader of the entirety of the Brotherhood of Steel, East Coast and West Coast. And even though the founding chapter back west didn't like what the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel had become under Lyons, when Arthur Maxon took charge, he blended Lyons' belief in people, and he blended the stoicism and isolationism of the Brotherhood of Steel together into his own personal belief system, and the West Coast fucking dealt with it. That's why they dedicated a significant amount of time and resources to creating the Pridwin. So his line still holds sway in the Fallout universe to this day. Although you could end that line in multiple games if you felt the need to. I might make a video on that at some point. Now we're going to skip ahead a little bit to the early 2160s. Sounds pretty good. Early 2150s. My mistake. In the early 2150s, a techno-raider cult threatened Brotherhood patrols in California. They would attack the Brotherhood, they'd kill the Brotherhood, they'd take power armor, high-tech weaponry, and the Brotherhood couldn't stand for this. This techno cult was known as the Vipers. You see them again in Fallout New Vegas. So seeing the threat to their people, who by this point in time have lived in isolation, away from the world, mostly just going and scavenging stuff like any other post-war raider group and survival group, John Maxon and Paladin Rhombus, a strange name, decided that they would exterminate the Vipers in their entirety to safeguard their people. Now this marked a change in the ideals of the Brotherhood from, you know, as long as you guys don't fuck with us, we won't fuck with you. As long as you don't got tech that we need or want, simple enough. Now they started to do a whole show of force, right? Keep people away, roll into places, steal tech from people if they need to save them from themselves, of course. But that's pretty much where the West Coast Brotherhood of Steel is now. Now we go ahead to 2161, and this is the beginning of Fallout. This is when the first Fallout game takes place. The Vault Dweller encountered the Brotherhood of Steel while investigating the mutant threat. After surviving the irradiated West Tech facility in the glow, the Vault Dweller is brought into the Brotherhood of Steel. Brotherhood. And they respect him for his courage and bravery to it all. Together, the Brotherhood of Steel, along with Vault Dweller, dismantle the Master's army, kill the Master at the Miraposa military base, and finishing that chapter for the Brotherhood. If they would have destroyed the facility beforehand, which some wanted to do, I'm guessing, Roger Maxson I decided against it, because what if it leaked into the environment? I got entire theories of different stuff on the channel about stuff like that. It's always fun to think about, but that ended that chapter for the Brotherhood, if you want to think of it that way. 2160 to the 2240s, there was pretty much no threat after the Master. They became insular again, hoarding tech, turning away outsiders as they did before. It made them vulnerable to threats, as it always would. And then the Enclave emerged, and the Brotherhood of Steel couldn't deal with them on their own. You know how that goes. Fallout 2, events of that game. Cool. Next is technically stuff that might not be considered canon anymore, but during this point in time, the Brotherhood of Steel decided that, well, not too far after this time, the Brotherhood of Steel decided that they wanted to send an expedition east. So they put together some airships, as one does, apparently, if you're the Brotherhood of Steel. These airships were nothing like the Pridwin. They were pretty much older-style Zeppelins where you had an underbasket. While they held a good amount of troops, they were nothing like the airships that would come later. As they traveled eastward, when they cleared the mountain range, they were hit with a massive storm, destroyed most of the airships. Some of them were blown extremely far off course. One of them hit outside of Chicago. By the by, the last, intact ship went as far as it could until it eventually crashed. The founding chapter pretty much writ that off as everyone died again, because that's what they like to do. And from that, usually nothing. But, going with the non-canon stuff now, after the airship crashed, a super mutant started pulling people out of the wreckage of the airship, started saving members of the Brotherhood of Steel. This led to a change in belief of the people that survived. They had no way to go back, they had no way to go forward, so they decided to set up here, where they crash-landed. Taking into consideration the super mutant that saved them, this Brotherhood of Steel chapter decided, hey, as long as you're not actively trying to kill people, and you want to actually help make the world a better place, we don't care. we'll welcome you into the Brotherhood of Steel. So they did. They set up camp, they built a town, they welcomed everybody. They became the local law enforcement of the area, keeping farms safe, keeping water suppliers safe, until eventually they just became a government in the Midwest. That's the Midwest chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. No one really talks about it because modern Fallout very well could make the Midwestern United States nothing but a glowing wasteland if they wanted. But at least back in the day, the Midwest Brotherhood of Steel was the government of the Midwest, like the NCR is on the West Coast. That's how the Brotherhood was there. Now, enough with the non-canonical stuff and or stuff that might not be canon anymore. Then again, there's quite a few things that I don't think is canon anymore just for a couple of lines of dialogue from one person at one point in time to completely prove me wrong. Case in point, I made an entire video on twin mothers. Apparently there was a vault. You know, this is the vault Harold was supposed to have come from. Nothing but kids were in the vault. They were raised by the Zach supercomputer, which was actually a woman's consciousness uploaded into the computer by the name of Diane. She pretty much brainwashed everyone in the vault to think she was a god. She'd send out robots once a year to check for radiation levels, but the actuality of it was that they were building a village carved into a mountainside for the vault dwellers to live in when they left the vault, which is pretty cool. When the vault dwellers finally left, they were met with a hologram of Diane, pretty much saying she's the goddess that's always been leading them and all that stuff. Skip ahead some time, the Zach supercomputer that she was running on shut down. The people couldn't talk to their god anymore. They specialized in like hybrid plant mutation things that created like an impenetrable forest that kept them all safe. They were non-violent. When some raiders did finally find their way in, instead of killing the raiders or anything like that, they just gave them food and supplies. That's where the the protagonist of Fallout, Van Buren, would have met them and dealt with the entirety of the raider problem for them. Again, I thought the entirety of this was just non-canonical anything anymore. The actuality of it is, if you spare Ulysses in the end of Lonesome Road, and you talk to him afterward, he tells you about the healing powder that is used, and he teaches you how to make a more potent version of it with like no side effects. And he explains that the people of Twin Mothers made it before Caesar's Legion killed them all and assimilated that tribe into the Legion. So Twin Mothers existed. I'm going with, if something is stated in lore, it's still part of the lore until it's specifically stated otherwise at this point, so that's what we're going with here. Now, with all that aside, back to the Brotherhood of Steel. I brought up the Midwest chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel because there's one of two ways you can interpret it. The original group that landed not too far outside of Chicago could have continued eastward and founded the, I guess it'd be technically the second or third chapter to exist on the East Coast, if you want to take Fallout 76 into account, which a lot of people thought Elder Lyons chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel in the Capital Wasteland was descended from. No, because it explains it right here. Lions in the Capital Wasteland, 2255 to 2277. Elder Owen Lyons, God, his name is annoying, led a detachment east to retrieve lost technology and investigate Enclave activity. One such place that they stopped at was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Steel City, USA, to get a sophisticated and advanced piece of technology. And this piece of technology was so coveted and or so dangerous to the world around it that the Brotherhood of Steel slaughtered everyone they came across in Pittsburgh in the pit to get their hands on this piece of technology before fleeing further eastward. This is how Asher ended up as the leader of the Pit Raiders in, Fallout 3 The Pit. But this also changed the way Elder Lyons viewed the normal people of the Wasteland. I guess he felt bad for what he had allowed to happen to the people of the Pit because he started helping the natives of the Capital Wasteland. He didn't tell the founding chapter about this, of course. He just keeps saying he needed people and supplies to be sent out to him to resupply, to keep on the good fight against the Enclave and keep hoarding technology until finally they realized what was happening and cut off all contact with the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel. And it stayed that way until Arthur Maxon turned like 16 and he became the High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel. But that's neither here nor there at the moment. This is when, like, the second significant schism, if you don't count the Midwestern one, happened. People loyal to the original goal of the expedition split off into the Brotherhood outcasts, which they stay true to the original belief of the Brotherhood of Steel, while Elder Lyons doesn't, and they hate it all. It's a whole thing. But the major thing is, this is why the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 3 is referred to as Lions Brotherhood and or the Lions Pride. They're the group that mostly goes out and helps people in the Wasteland. After that, we have, well, the entirety of Fallout 3. You interact with the Brotherhood of Steel. Not going to go into that. Watch any of my playthroughs of Fallout 3 and you'll see how that goes. Now, heading back to the West Coast, the founding chapter has been reduced significantly in the meantime. Other chapters are in different places, but the founding chapter, at this point in time, is run by an elder by the name of Elijah. He's extremely focused on technology and how to use it and utilize it for the Brotherhood of Steel to make the Brotherhood of Steel stronger. Some people in the Brotherhood don't like that and think they should simply safeguard the stuff. He thinks they should use it. This leads to him learning about the Archimedes system and how it's linked to Helios 1. He fights to keep Helios. He loses Helios. They flee back to Hidden Valley. He pretty much hands over reins of the Brotherhood of Steel at that point to Elder McNamara, who you meet in Fallout New Vegas. You also meet Elijah in Fallout New Vegas. He's an asshole, just so you know. At this point in time, McNamara pretty much shuts everything down to make it seem like the people of the Brotherhood of Steel are just gone at that point. Then you have the entirety of the events of Fallout New Vegas to play through. Save them, kill them, become part of them, whatever. The end of Elijah comes in Dead Money. That entire DLC revolves around him, and at this point in time, he's become obsessed. Obsessed isn't the best word for it. Fanatical about technology and how the Sierra Madres, of all fucking things, he's obsessed about. A vending machine is pretty much what it boils down to, right? The Sierra Madre was a unique, extremely advanced casino and resort that was made pre-war. The gala was supposed to go off when the bombs fell, and it all turned to shit. The vending machines that the Sierra Madre used allowed you to take a specialized type of chip that you find, tokens, whatever you want to call them. And these tokens acted as the materials needed, along with a battery source, to literally reconstruct anything that had been saved into the machine. So for instance, if you wanted a stim pack, you'd take some of these tokens into it, put the tokens into it, and it would literally create a stim pack for you from those tokens. Food, clothing, meds, weapons, you name it, it can make it. And he wanted to figure out how, because quite frankly, if you have a bunker, right, you can make food, you can make water, you can make probably power cells and ammunition from the goddamn thing. So we became obsessed with it, thinking that the secrets and stuff were hidden in the vault. There was just a bunch of gold in the vault. Spoiler alert for a game that's... Goddamn, it's getting old, isn't it? Time. Anyway, that's how that goes for Elijah. Now we'll talk about, just quickly here, the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 76. Ugh, fucking Fallout 76, man. Apparently, when Roger Maxson defected from the United States government, he sent out a broadcast. We all know that. He declared secession. I don't know if this broadcast that was heard on the East Coast was supposed to have been when he first executed people at Mariposa, or when they first founded the Brotherhood of Steel. Any which way, remnants of the United States military on the East Coast of the United States heard this broadcast from the founding of the Brotherhood of Steel, along with their belief systems and what all went on, and they founded their own chapters of the Brotherhood of Steel on the East Coast. The first founded chapter on the East Coast of the United States was killed off, because that's how that goes, in something known as Operation Touchdown, where they were trying to destroy the Scorched. After that, I guess, from what I can tell, decades later, Paladin, Leah, whatever, leads a group of Brotherhood for a mission in Fort Atlas. So I'm guessing this is an expedition from the West Coast Brotherhood of Steel, somehow like 200 years before the actual first expedition, whatever. This Brotherhood also splits and has a schism, because of course they do. There always has to be infighting amongst them. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about for Fallout 76's Brotherhood of Steel. They only did it because they wanted to have the Brotherhood of Steel be part of it, even though technically they wouldn't have been on the East Coast at that point. Whatever, right? Just whatever. Continuing on timeline-wise from where we originally were, 2286 to 2287, Arthur Maxon, last of the Maxon line, becomes elder at the age of 16 and reunites the DC Brotherhood with the Outcasts, before then contacting the head chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel and being named the High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel. This is where the Pridwin comes into use, even though some people will say it's made from military platforms. Others will say it was made from remnants from Mariposa. Who knows? They had airships on the West Coast before they had airships on the East Coast. So that's what I'm going with. His vision merged Lyon's humanitarianism with old-school militarism of the Brotherhood of Steel, showing that if they wanted to, they could have people be on their side without the people needing to bend the knee to the Brotherhood, which is good. They get the Pridwin, they wage war against the Institute. That's where Fallout 4 comes in. Not going to explain all of that. If you're here, you've probably played Fallout 4. Cool, thank you. As for the TV show, we see a West Coast chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, and I do believe we see the Pridwin in 1 or 2 shots toward one of the end of the one episode or something. Anyway, the West Coast chapters of the Brotherhood of Steel become more religious in their views on technology and become more like zealots in their beliefs. I, quite frankly, wouldn't even be surprised if they try to usurp control of the Brotherhood of Steel from Arthur Maxson, or they could very well see him as a God King. I have no idea. Maybe the next season of the show will explain something. Seems like it's going to take place in New Vegas. I have no idea, right? Any which way, this video has gone on too long. Hopefully I can cut a bunch of information out so it's not 40 minutes in length. But thanks for watching if you still are. I'm going to go get something to drink because it's hot as hell here.